Hey there! Imagine this, you've built a killer ASP.NET MVC web app, but now you want to inject some serious Microsoft 365 magic into it. You are thinking emails, calendars, contacts, files, the works. The Microsoft Graph .NET SDK is your secret weapon. This post is all about how to whip up an ASP.NET MVC web application seamlessly integrating with Microsoft Graph using the SDK. You ready? Let's dive in. First things first, setting up authentication. Grab an Azure AD application, like a character getting costumes for a role, you, the hero. Now, you want to register your ASP.NET MVC app with Azure AD by associating a redirect URI. This is your stage where the audience, in this case, the users, will find you. This is how the app will secure its interactions with Microsoft Graph through delegated permission. Now, the Azure portal holds the script for the actors. In the Azure portal, in the Enterprise Applications section of Azure Active Directory, create a new application. You set this up by granting it the appropriate permissions necessary to interact with Microsoft Graph, say, may. Read and write permissions are key, but if your app's storyline includes creating groups, you'd also grant group.re_add_write. Your next scene involves assigning the actual credentials. If you are thinking about the OAuth flow, then you are on the right track. Implement the OAuth flow in your Web API controller in your ASP.NET MVC web app. The flow might sound like a long and bumpy ride, but it's the safest way to transport the audience from your app to Microsoft Graph. Remember, the OAuth flow is split into two sequences, the authentication request and the token request. In the first sequence, you are asking the audience for consent. Your audience clicks on the consent dialog, granting the required delegated permissions. But remember, you only provide these permissions for the current session. Thereafter, you securely store these details from Azure AD, cliented and tenant ID and your application secret. Now, on to our token request sequence. Once you've completed that, you hit the endpoint, triggering your authorization request, and as the script dictates, it delivers a code. This code is then used in your token request to acquire an access token, your app's VIP act, for the next sequence. This token is used to make calls to the Microsoft Graph API. With a token in hand, it's about time you made your first API calls. The SDK simplifies this process, allowing you to make API calls that fetch email data by calling the method mail.read. The MailSense library is like a helpful sidekick here, making the API requests simpler and more understandable. Making API calls is great, but how you present the data to your audience, your users, is just as crucial. ASP.NET MVC comes into play to help package this data into a displayable format. In this scenario, you are focusing on displaying emails from a user's Microsoft account. You call the Microsoft Graph API to authenticate the user and fetch emails. When you fetch emails, the Microsoft Graph API returns the data as collections. While the data might appear cryptic to non-coders, it tells the story of email exchanges, subjects, senders, and messages. To present this in a way your ASP.NET MVC web app users can enjoy, you take this raw data and transform it into something digestible, like a list of strings with email details. Your job isn't complete until you provide your users with feedback, their role in the story. As they interact with the app, they should receive relevant response messages. You ensure each user sees successfully retrieved emails, or as they go down the list, details like sender email address, email body, subject. And, of course, they'd enjoy seeing no emails found when there are no emails. This user feedback is an ongoing dialogue, a conversation between your app and the audience. To wrap things up, here are a few more points to chew on. Don't forget the scopes and permissions that your Azure AD app needs to access specific types of resources. You've already granted permissions, but sometimes users need to grant these permissions again, especially during token renewal or token refresh. Refresh tokens, think of them as your ticket to return visits. When this ticket expires, and with the consent of your users, you can securely request for a new access token without disrupting the experience. Be mindful of your resource usage. The access token permissions define who, what, and how you access Microsoft Graph resources, like the audience that comes to see your show. Misuse may have unforeseen consequences, like an unintentional spam email flooding or data loss. A well-defined claims principal and user classes, these are your characters, the principal that holds the identity claims, and the user carrying this principal. Both tie into ASP.NET identity and are pivotal in granting access to Microsoft Graph API calls. The API endpoint, if you want to fetch a particular email, this is your backstage door, the specific email endpoint on the Microsoft Graph API. And that's a wrap. You're all set on your quest to create an ASP.NET MVC web application with the Microsoft Graph .NET SDK. For more insights on Microsoft Graph, be sure to check out the Microsoft documentation and the Microsoft Graph .NET samples. Don't forget to share this knowledge. You're not just a coder but a tech magician who connects us, one API call at a time. Feeling like diving deeper? Visit neeraj.qzz.io and subscribe to TechLab. Stay ahead in this ever-evolving technology show, the TechLab. Till then, keep hacking, and remember, every code you write brings a touch of magic to the world. Vertical bar.